dual citizenship with one of the 7 countries, they will be exempt from this ban. And I mention that because one of the biggest problems right now seems to be there's a lot of confusion. It's not entirely clear how this ban is actually being implemented, on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, on a case-by-case basis, it should be evaluated. However, there is also a broad number of categories of individuals who are being said that you can come to the United States. Specifically, individuals from those countries that are being outlined by the president, they will have a very hard time coming into the United States unless they make a determination that it's in the best national interest for them to come to the United States. Otherwise, they're out. For somebody like Ali, who's already in the United States, I think is more protected, and I don't think the government can effectuate a removal of him. And I would not encourage him, like he's been advised before, to depart the country. He should stay. He should be able to finish, unless he does something extraordinary that will disqualify him from having his student visa. He should be able to finish. He doesn't have to travel to Canada and finish it.
What if he has to renew that visa?
Well, the visa, when you come to the United States as a student visa, you have durational status. So as long as he remains in the United States, and as long as he continues to meet the requirements of his student visa, he doesn't have to go out there and renew it. So legally, he could remain in the country as long as he meets the requirements.
But he'll be separated from his family. His family
of course, and that it is difficult, and it's challenging.
Which is more than an inconvenience.
It is, and of course.
We should note this. The Department of State on its website says a visa does not guarantee entry into the United States. A visa allows a foreign citizen to travel to the U.S. port of entry, and the Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Customs and Border Protection Immigration Inspector authorizes or denies admission to the United States. So it's important to note here that even if you do get a visa, there is still this process at an airport or wherever or a land crossing, that there is still a determination of whether or not you're allowed into the country.
And that applies to non-immigrants. That applies to individuals who get immigrant visas coming in, asking to come in as a lawful permanent resident if they get approved by that Customs and Border Protection officers to come into the United States. It applies to lawful permanent residents who are coming back as lawful permanent residents.
Green card holders.
Green card holders. Right. However, if they've done anything that might cause them to be inadmissible, they might be allowed in, but they might be referred to an immigration judge. So it is the say that the Customs and Border Protection officer has is paramount and very important in this whole process.
Okay, the president defended why the ban seemed to be rushed into effect. He put out a tweet. If the ban were announced with 1 week notice, the bad would rush into our country during that week. A lot of bad dudes out there. Does that actually make sense in reality? Could someone, find out this ban was going into effect, get a visa within a week and travel to the United States and gain entry?
Most likely not, especially from these countries who are already being heavily scrutinized.
The 7 countries.
The 7 countries, the majority of those countries. In general, I believe that the United States is doing its best to try to protect the homeland. And very few exceptions, people can get overnight a visa unless you can prove extreme hardship and you need an emergency to be able to do it. It is very doubtful because they still got to run your background checks, and that might take some time. So I doubt that an individual in such a short period of time, especially from those countries, might be able to get a visa and enter the United States.
Something which we're also wondering about, we know the ban is in effect, but we haven't heard what will replace the current system, because it's all about looking at the system, trying to figure out a better way of vetting. Is there any indication of what this administration plans to do?
No, they have instructed the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of the State Department, to go out and evaluate the program and come back with the recommendations. In the meantime, of course, we have this ban, which is it is unfortunate, because to me, it should have done the other way around. It should have been a process whereby the president said, in a very short period of time, with all the talented individuals that we have at the Department of Homeland Security, at the Department of State, in a very short period of time, they could have come back to the president and made the recommendations as to whether there is something wrong with our current system, which has allowed a lot of refugees to come into the United States successfully and without any incident so far. To see whether that, unless the president, and I have no privy to what kind of national security intelligence he's getting at this moment, unless there's an imminent threat that he deems necessary at this particular moment, I think that perhaps he acted too hastily.
Okay, Nelson, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.